She stormed across the grass like she owned the whole damn riverbank, waving her phone in the air and shouting like she'd caught a terrorist. "You can't be here. This is HOA property. Get out." I was kneeling down by the edge of the small, wooden bridge helping my daughter Emma line up her tiny toy boats on the water. She was giggling, something rare for her. Emma's 5, nonverbal and autistic. That bridge is the one place where she feels calm. She loves watching the water carry her boats. I built that bridge with my own hands, on my land. But this woman, this blonde, sunglasses at 7 p.m. Karen, came out of nowhere, yelling like a banshee. "Where's her leash? You people always think rules don't apply to you." I stood up slow. My gut tightened, but I stayed calm. I've dealt with people like her before. Loud, entitled, dangerous when ignored. "I said leave," she screamed again, stepping closer. "This is private property, HOA rules." I looked her in the eye and said nothing, because what I wanted to say would have made things worse, and I had Emma standing right next to me, clutching her little blue boat. Then it happened. She reached forward, grabbed my daughter by the arm, and shoved her off the edge. For a second, everything stopped. The splash was too loud. Emma doesn't know how to swim, she didn't even scream. I dove in without thinking. Water closed over my head, and for one breathless moment I couldn't see anything. Then I felt her tiny arm, limp, just under the surface. I yanked her up and kicked hard toward the bank. Karen was still standing on the bridge, arms crossed like she was the victim. "You shouldn't have brought her here. I warned you." That's when something inside me snapped. I laid Emma down, on the grass, soaking and gasping, but okay, thank God. And I stood up, dripping wet, and said the first words I'd spoken since she showed up. "Ma'am, you just assaulted a minor." She rolled her eyes. "You're lucky I don't call the cops." I took out my wallet, flipped it open, showed her the badge. "You don't need to call anyone. I am the cops." And that's when her face turned white. She blinked, took a step back. "That badge is fake," she muttered, voice trembling now. "You people always lie. You're probably some wannabe security guard." I didn't move, just looked at her. Cold, quiet, soaked to the bone, with my daughter coughing beside me. "I'm Sheriff David Ross," I said, calm but sharp, "and you just laid hands on my autistic daughter, on my property." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but the words didn't come out. Instead, she did what cowards do when they realize they messed with the wrong person. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "She's seriously calling the police on me," I whispered to myself, almost laughing. She spoke into the phone fast, fake tears in her voice. "Yes, I'm being attacked. He's impersonating an officer and he has a child with him. I think it's kidnapped or something. Yes, by the river bridge near Willow Creek Lane." I watched her dig her own hole. She had no clue who I was, no idea that her 911 call was being routed right back to my own dispatch team. I walked over, picked up my daughter, wrapped her in my jacket, and waited. Karen kept glancing back, probably confused why I wasn't panicking. That's when her second mistake came. She stormed back to her car, a shiny white SUV parked on my grass, and returned holding a printed paper in a plastic sleeve. She slapped it against my mailbox like it was some holy decree. "There. Official HOA violation. You'll be fined for trespassing and unapproved structures. That bridge is illegal. And if I see that child here again, I will press charges for endangerment." The audacity was almost unreal. "Ma'am," I said, stepping forward, holding Emma close. "There is no HOA out here. You forged that document." She sneered. "That's what you think. I'm the acting president of the new homeowners council. We've got new rules now. You'll see." The sound of sirens started to echo in the distance. Not just one unit, multiple. I knew the boys were rolling in. Karen's face shifted again. She turned to me, eyes narrowing. "You think you're smart, don't you? Flashing a fake badge, making threats. But I have connections. I'm friends with real officers. I can make your life hell." I smiled then, just a little. Not because I found any of this funny, but because she really had no clue what she'd just done. And the best part? Everything she did, the shove, the lies, the fake notice, was caught on the body cam I always wear off duty. She was about to find out what it feels like to threaten the wrong man, on his own land, in front of his child. The first squad, car pulled up fast, kicking up gravel. Then another right behind it, lights flashing, radios buzzing. Karen raised her hand and waved like she'd just won something. "Over here, officers, over here. That man attacked me and claimed to be law enforcement. He has a child, something's not right." Two deputies stepped out, Deputy Mark and Officer Lynn. Both had worked with me for years. Mark looked over at me, saw Emma wrapped in my jacket, and his eyes darkened. "Sheriff, you okay?" he asked. Karen's smile froze. "Wait, Sheriff?" she repeated, looking between us. No, he's lying. He's impersonating. Arrest him. He threatened me and pushed his kid into the river." Lynn raised a brow. "Ma'am, are you aware who you're speaking about?" Karen hesitated. "He said he's the sheriff, but that badge looks fake, and there's no way someone like him owns all this land. This is HOA property." That's when I handed Mark my body cam. Still recording. "You'll want to watch this. She assaulted my daughter, forged HOA notices, and made a false 911 report. She even trespassed and parked on my land." Karen's lips twitched. "This is some kind of setup. He's manipulating you. This isn't fair." Mark gave her a hard look. "Ma'am, we've been working under Sheriff Ross for 7 years, and this land, it's county-owned and deeded under his name. No HOA exists here." She tried to argue again, but Lynn was already pulling the fake violation paper from the mailbox and examining it. "This is a fake seal," she muttered. "Printed this at home, didn't you?" Karen's voice cracked. I didn't want people like him around here. That kid's always screaming, ruining the peace. I was trying to protect the neighborhood." Mark stepped toward her. "You threw a child off a bridge and filed a false emergency report. That's not protection. That's a felony." She backed away, hands up. "You can't arrest me. I didn't do anything wrong. You're making a huge mistake." Emma, still holding onto my jacket, let out a soft whimper. I knelt beside her, whispering comfort. Behind me, I heard the unmistakable sound of handcuffs. Karen was shouting now. "You're all corrupt. You're covering for him. This is abuse. I'll call my lawyer. My brother works with the city council." Lynn read her rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." But she didn't stay silent. She kicked, screamed, called me every name she could spit out. And that's when Deputy Mark said the line that hit hardest. "You should have just walked away, ma'am. Instead, you picked a fight with the sheriff and threw an autistic child into a river. Now, you're going away for a long time." The cuffs clicked, and Karen finally seemed to grasp that this wasn't some HOA power trip she could control. Her face twisted. Panic, confusion, pure disbelief. "No, this isn't happening," she muttered, stumbling as Lynn led her toward the cruiser. "This can't be happening to me." Mark stayed back, crouching beside me and Emma. "She okay?" I nodded, brushing Emma's wet hair from her eyes. "Scared, but she's breathing fine. Just needs a warm bath and some quiet." Emma reached up, gently pressing her toy boat into my hand like she was telling me she didn't want to lose it. That one small gesture, after everything, nearly broke me. Mark sighed. "You sure you don't want an ambulance?" "I'll take her in myself," I said. "I just want her home." A few curious neighbors had started peeking from behind their blinds. One bold man even stepped out onto his porch, phone in hand, filming everything. Karen saw him from the backseat of the cruiser and started yelling again. "Don't record me. Stop filming. I know people. This isn't over." But it was. I stood up slowly, still soaked, still shaking with rage I hadn't let loose. Mark touched my arm. "You did good, Sheriff. Real good. We'll handle the rest." As I carried Emma to my truck, her little arms wrapped tight around my neck, I glanced back one last time. Karen was pounding her head against the backseat window, mascara running, screaming into nothing. But nobody listened. Not anymore. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about Emma or me. It was about standing ground, protecting what's ours, and sending a message loud and clear. You don't get to bully people because you think you have power. Not here, not anymore. And especially not against a man who's worn the badge longer than she's held a clipboard. Later that evening, after Emma was finally asleep, clean, warm, wrapped in her favorite blanket, I sat alone on the porch, watching the bridge. The moonlight hit the water just right. Peaceful again. Like none of it had ever happened. But it had. And it wasn't over yet. My phone buzzed. It was Deputy Lynn. "Sheriff, you're gonna want to see this. We pulled security cam footage from her neighborhood Facebook group. Karen posted a video last week, bragging about cleaning up the neighborhood and removing threats. Before the summer HOA meeting, she even mentioned your land specifically." I exhaled slowly. "She planned it?" "Looks that way," Lynn said. "She even tagged someone named Councilman Dreyfus, said he promised her support if she could reclaim the creekside lots for a proposed greenbelt project." My grip tightened. Dreyfus was a name I hadn't heard in years. He'd tried, pushing for a rezoning deal 5 years ago, one that would have stripped property rights from several rural landowners, including me. He lost that vote. Badly. Now it was starting to make sense. Karen wasn't just some loudmouth. She was a pawn. Or maybe a willing player in something deeper. I ended the call and sat in silence. That's when my security app pinged. I opened the feed and saw 2 figures near the bridge. Flashlights. They weren't in uniforms. I was off duty, no badge on me, but I didn't need it. I grabbed my sidearm from the lockbox under the porch, slipped quietly into the trees, and made my way toward the water. Voices, low, male. "Just grab the paperwork. HOA says the bridge isn't permitted. Tear it out tonight and leave the notice taped." My blood ran cold. They weren't even trying to hide it. They came after dark, thinking nobody would stop them. Thinking I'd back down. I stepped out from behind the trees, weapon low but ready. "This your idea of community service?" I asked, voice steady. The 2 men froze. One dropped a bolt cutter. The other reached for something behind his back, but he wasn't. "Fast enough. Don't," I warned. "Hands up. Now." They hesitated. I flipped the switch on my body cam. "County Sheriff, you're trespassing on private property, carrying tools meant for destruction, and acting under false authority. You make one wrong move, and this goes federal." The one with the bolt cutter whispered. "We were just doing what Karen said. She said it was city approved." I shook my head. "You boys really should have checked who owns the land before trying to rip it apart." Another twist. Another enemy thinking I was just some quiet man with a kid. They never saw the sheriff beneath the surface. But they were about to learn. The taller one, probably mid-30s, beard, construction vest, started backing away, hands still up. "Look, man, we didn't know. She said the HOA had papers, that the city approved it. We're just subcontractors." "You showed up after dark," I cut in. "No city permits, no visible ID, bolt cutters. That's not a misunderstanding. That's criminal trespassing and attempted vandalism of county property." He swallowed hard. The other one dropped the crowbar he was holding and muttered, "We didn't sign up for this." I radioed Mark. "Got 2 on site near the bridge, tools in hand, send backup, quiet approach." They both flinched. "Please, man," the bearded one begged. "She said it was hers, that she'd take the blame if anything happened." "She will," I said, eyes fixed on him. "But you still did the job. And there's one thing Karen didn't tell you." I raised my phone, showing them a screenshot from the county's property records. My name, my deed, my badge number, all linked. This land, officially recorded, registered, and personally surveyed by me. You're not just on private property, you're standing on county infrastructure, funded and approved under my jurisdiction. They didn't say another word after that. By the time backup arrived, both men were sitting on the ground, hands behind their heads, calm, quiet, like the woods themselves were watching. Mark gave me a look as he cuffed them. You think this is part of something bigger? I nodded. Karen wasn't acting alone. This isn't just about HOA drama. It's about land, control, and someone pulling strings behind the scenes. Mark glanced toward the road. You think it's that councilman? I know it is, I said. And I think this was just the beginning. He didn't argue. We cleared the scene, logged the evidence, and secured the bridge. But the next morning, the real twist hit. An envelope was waiting in my mailbox. No return address. Just one word typed across the front in bold letters. Revoked. Inside was a forged city notice declaring my sheriff's certification under review for abuse of power. My daughter's bridge. My badge. My land. They were coming after everything. But they didn't understand yet. This wasn't just a fight over land. This was war. I stared at that envelope for a long time. They thought they were smart, using paper to wage war. Hiding, behind forged letters and fake HOA stamps, thinking they could shake a man like me. But they made one fatal mistake. They messed with my daughter. By noon, I was in uniform, standing at the county records office with the real documents in hand. I walked straight to the clerk's window and said, I need a full trace on every zoning request tied to Councilman Dreyfus in the last 12 months. The woman blinked, then nodded slowly. Yes, Sheriff, right away. The file was thicker than I expected. Nearly 24 requests, all involving rural properties. Most had been denied, except a few that passed quietly. No hearings, no press. And one of those properties used to belong to my neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, a veteran who had suddenly moved out last fall after his land was condemned due to safety violations. Except now I could see the paper trail. The violations were signed by the same fake HOA office Karen had used. This was organized. Not just Karen, but Dreyfus and possibly others in the city council, using phony neighborhood complaints to push folks out and snatch up land cheap. And I wasn't going to let it happen again. I drove straight to City Hall, walked into Dreyfus's office unannounced. His assistant jumped to her feet. You can't go in there. I just did, I said. Dreyfus was sitting behind a massive mahogany desk, sipping tea like a king in a castle. He looked up, and that fake smile of his barely flickered. Sheriff. Ross, what a surprise. I heard about the unfortunate incident on your land. You sent them, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Karen. The men last night. The fake notices. The forged envelope in my mailbox, all connected to your rezoning campaign. You're pushing people out so you can sell the land for that private development deal with Northeast Horizon Investments. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. That's a strong accusation, Sheriff, especially for a man whose certification is currently... I tossed the forged letter on his desk. This? Already confirmed it's fake. Traced the printer back to Karen's home computer. You're losing your pawns, Dreyfus. Fast. He picked up the paper, calm, too calm. You really think people will believe your word over a respected city councilman? I smiled. They won't have to. We got everything. Body cam footage, testimonies, and now, a whistleblower. Karen's already talking. That hit him. His eyes twitched, just for a second. She cut a deal this morning. I lied. Cooperation in exchange for reduced sentencing. She named you, and she's willing to testify. He stood abruptly, slamming the desk with his palms. You don't scare me, Sheriff. I built this town. I leaned in close. You may have built the corruption, but I built the law. and you're standing on the wrong side of it." I turned and walked out without another word, let him stew in his panic, because now the clock was ticking, and justice was coming. 3 days later, the courtroom was packed. Local reporters lined the back wall. Veterans, families, neighbors who'd been too afraid to speak, they were all there now, watching. Karen sat at the defense table, eyes hollow, makeup barely covering the bags under her eyes. She wasn't smug anymore, wasn't yelling. She looked like someone who'd finally realized that consequences were real. Across from her sat Dreyfus, flanked by high-priced attorneys. Even now he kept that smug look, like none of this would stick, like he still owned the town. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had saved the best for last. The judge called my name. I stepped up to the stand. "State your name and occupation," the prosecutor said. "Matthew Ross, county sheriff and father of a 5-year-old girl with autism." I saw Karen flinch at that. "Sheriff Ross, can you describe what happened on May 14th? I did. Every detail. The fake notices, the confrontation, the bridge. Emma. The courtroom was silent, people gripping their seats. You could feel it. The anger, the disbelief, the heartbreak. Then the prosecutor asked the key question. "Were you ever informed of any official zoning changes to your land or any legitimate HOA authority over your property?" "No," I said, "because they don't exist. My land is outside of HOA jurisdiction. Always has been. These actions were fraudulent and illegal, and I have proof." I handed over the file. Land deeds, security footage, Karen's digital, message logs, and the kicker, a secret recording from the night Dreyfus met with the fake HOA board. Turns out, one of them had been wired. In it, Dreyfus said clearly, "Once Ross is gone, we can rezone the entire creekside for the development. Just keep the pressure on, he'll crack eventually." He didn't crack, he got exposed. The courtroom gasped. Even the judge leaned forward. Dreyfus's lawyers tried to object, but it was over. The prosecutor smiled. "Your Honor, we request immediate action. These are criminal conspiracies involving property fraud, abuse of power, and endangerment of a minor." The judge didn't hesitate. "Bail is revoked. Both defendants will be remanded into custody immediately." The moment the bailiff placed cuffs on Dreyfus, a slow clap began. From the back. From an old man in a veteran's cap, then another, then more. People stood, applauding, not for me, for justice, for the idea that no matter how powerful someone thinks they are, no matter how high they climb, they can still fall hard if they cross the line, especially when they try to hurt a child. I walked out of that courtroom holding Emma's hand. She was smiling, unaware of the weight that had just lifted, and I knew deep in my bones that this town had changed. Not because of the law, but because someone finally stood up. 2 weeks later, the bridge was rebuilt, stronger, safer, and, this time with a little bench where Emma could sit and throw pebbles into the water. The town council, under pressure from the public, officially dissolved the fake HOA Karen had helped run. A full investigation into zoning fraud was underway, and 3 other council members had already quietly resigned. Emma and I stood near the creek as the sun dipped behind the hills. She held my hand, humming softly, tapping her fingers like she always did when she felt safe. "You okay, sweetheart?" I asked. She nodded, then pointed at the new plaque bolted into the bridge railing. It read, "Emma's Crossing, a place of peace. A reminder that no one stands alone." I swallowed, the lump in my throat. Behind us, a few neighbors gathered. Mr. Alvarez, back from Florida. Miss Thompson, the retired teacher who'd almost lost her home, now smiling through tears. People who had stayed quiet for too long, now standing together. Karen was facing 6 felony charges. Dreyfus, more than double that. Federal investigators were now involved. It wasn't just a local matter anymore. It had turned into something much bigger. something that would echo through every fake HOA and backdoor land deal in the state. But for me, it was never about politics. It was about Emma, about the right to live in peace, to protect what's yours, and to show people like Karen that power isn't found in rules printed on stolen paper. It's found in standing up when no one else will. The sheriff's badge. On my chest didn't give me that strength. Emma did. She never spoke a word during the whole ordeal, never shouted, never pointed fingers. But when that woman threw her into the water and she pulled herself back out and reached for me without fear, she reminded me who I was and who I still had to be. As the sun dipped lower, Emma leaned, her head on my side. "I like our bridge," she said quietly. "Me too," I whispered. And for the first time in a long time, I believed everything would be okay. Not because the fight was over, but because we had won. 2 nights before the court ruling, something unexpected happened. I was sitting on the porch, watching Emma sleep through the baby monitor, when a car pulled up, headlights off, quiet. I reached for my holster, instincts sharp, but as the driver stepped out, I froze. It was Karen's husband. We'd never met before. He walked slow, head down, like a man carrying something too heavy for words. "Sheriff Ross," he said softly, standing just beyond the porch steps. "I'm not here to cause trouble." I didn't say anything, just waited. He looked up, eyes tired, broken. I didn't know what she was doing. None of it. She locked me out of the finances, told me to stay out of HOA business, said she was handling everything for the future. He laughed bitterly. Turns out the future was built on lies. He pulled something from his jacket, an old phone. "I found this in her drawer. Hidden under boxes of fake documents, there's videos, recordings of meetings with Dreyfus, of her planning everything, even the bridge sabotage." He handed it to me like it burned his hand. I should have stopped her. I was too weak. I nodded, accepting the phone without a word. Before he left, he turned and said something that stuck with me. "You may have saved your daughter that night, but you saved mine too, from becoming like her mother." I watched his taillights vanish into the darkness, then sat back down, phone in hand, heart heavy. That phone sealed the case. The recordings confirmed what we already suspected, and more. Not only had Karen lied about the HOA's authority, but she'd also misused community funds, paid off inspectors, and threatened residents into silence. One of the files even had her bragging. "He thinks he's untouchable because of that badge. Let's see how untouchable he feels when I take his land, his job, and his kid's future." She wanted to destroy me, but in the end, it was her own husband who gave me the final piece. Funny how people wear masks, pretend to be protectors of community while they poison it from the inside. But the truth always finds its way to the light. And justice? That's not just a court verdict. It's every person who chooses to do the right thing, even when it's hard. A month later, life had finally begun to feel normal again. Karen and Dreyfus were both behind bars, denied bail after additional charges came to light: fraud, endangerment, conspiracy, even witness intimidation. The case was now national news. HOA abuse stories poured in from across the country, and for once people weren't afraid to speak. But back here, on the quiet edge of town, things were simpler. Emma started smiling more. The nightmares stopped. She played again, by the creek on the porch, sometimes even waving at neighbors passing by. She was healing in her own quiet way. So was I. We held a community barbecue at the new park the town funded, using money recovered from the fake HOA's accounts. Veterans grilled burgers. Kids ran wild. Someone brought a bouncy castle. It was small-town America at its best. No suits, no lies, just people. Mr. Alvarez raised his glass and said, "To the sheriff and to a little girl tougher than all of us." People cheered. I looked down at Emma sitting in my lap eating a marshmallow with sticky fingers. She looked up and whispered, "Is the bad lady gone?" I nodded. "She's not coming back." She smiled. And in that moment, I realized something. They didn't just try to take my land. They tried to take my peace, my family, the quiet, strength we built together. But they failed. Because some things, some people, can't be broken. They can only be tested. And sometimes those tests become your story. A story that reminds the world what it means to stand your ground, to protect what matters, to never back down, even when the odds are stacked against you. I didn't fight back because I'm a sheriff. I fought back because I'm a father. And in this country, no fake HOA, no crooked politician, no power-hungry neighbor gets to take that from me. Not then, not ever.